So starting out straight away, I can't recommend enough getting a little tiny organizer like this. It's very helpful to keep your parts organized so you don't lose any. In model builders, we call it the carpet monster. You drop a part and it disappears, and you never see it again, and the carpet monster ate it. You would be amazed at just how easy it is to lose some of these small parts. I also highly recommend some type of knife. X-Acto knife. Be very careful. These are extraordinarily sharp. It will go through your finger into the bone very quickly. Ask me how I know. I've never had one actually in my bone, but I have cut myself plenty of times with these, which is why I prefer one with a fat handle and a little rubber grippy, which helps me not hurt myself. They do make in many entry-level model kits smaller X-Acto knives with a black plastic handle. They work fine too. You'll find that this comes in handy for very many things. So what I am doing right now is I am just making labels for my part trays. Every model kit is different, and they assign the colors, the letters, differently. So you'll see here for this kit, A is aluminum. Well, it just so happens that my last kit, A, was aluminum. So A is already labeled in my plastic container here, which is convenient. All of the other colors were different. So I am going to say here, B is engine orange. Oh, by the way, this is handy to have too, this little green mat you'll see me cutting on. It's a healable mat, so when you cut, it just heals and just kind of goes away. That way you're not damaging your mother's furniture or your wife's table. Best to have one of these mats. Make sure that you're not causing any family problems or destroying any furniture. So now you'll see I've got many of these compartments here, and I've got a few of them cut out for larger parts. The interior chassis and the body obviously aren't going to fit in here, but those are big pieces. You're not going to lose those anywhere. So what we'll do now is, and this is another thing that you should have eventually, is a set of tweezers. But for right now, use your fingers if you must. So there, now I'm ready to begin separating the parts. I'm going to take them off the sprues. I'm going to sand them, clean them, and I'm going to put them in here. So let's get started removing our parts from the sprues. Each part is numbered. You'll see here for the engine halves, we have part number 29 and part number 30 right here. According to this, half of the engine block is to be painted B, which is orange. And then the other part of the engine, which is the transmission back here, is to be painted A, aluminum. They have this nice little thing here, which basically tells you do the same for the other side. There is an index in the instructions that tell you what to do. The parts have numbers, 29 and 30, so now I'm going to cut this off. Now I'm using what's called a sprue cutter. You could use your razor blade knife, you could use a pair of nail clippers, any kind of small little nippers will do. You want to get as close as you can to the part. The closer you are to the part, the less you will have to sand. That's using a despruer. And now if you were to use a knife, I would suggest being very careful, making sure that you get as close as possible and just push through. Make sure again that you are doing this on a surface that we will not damage. I don't want to have any angry parents or spouses contacting me saying, Angelo, they damaged my table. How could you do this to me? So, there we go. There's one more. And there you have it. Now you'll notice that if you look here, the part that I did with my spruing pliers, my despruers here, look at how nice that is. And then the part that I did here with a knife, there's a big burr there. And that is because these work a lot better. So now what you can do is very carefully, we can trim these down, get rid of most of the material this way. Be very careful you don't cut yourself. And then we can use a little sanding stick. They make tons of different kinds of these. Here's one that I got in Hobby Lobby, which has 120 and 240, 120 on one side, 240 on the other. Here's one that I have that's just 800 all over the whole stick. Some of them are a little bit rougher. I think this one's about 300 grit. The lower the number, the harsher it is, the rougher it is. The higher the number, the finer it is. This one is about a 400 grit. And I can just see the spots where there is some left. And just sand that out. Now, me personally, when I have parts that can be glued together before I paint them, I do. So, for example, this part could very easily be assembled and glued together before paint. This way we can clean these seams, sand them up nice before the paint process, and you get a better looking part. And if you look at the instructions, you'll see that the heads are also B, the oil pan is also B, the water pump here, part number 36, is also B. So I could de-sprue all of these parts, attach them all to the engine before I paint anything. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. So these guys can be glued together. So here we are, we haven't even painted a single thing, and we're already gluing stuff together. Let's talk about glue. Here's glue. Here's glue. Let's grab this bottle, it's fuller. Here's glue. Here's glue. Here's glue. And here's glue. This is two-part epoxy, which is when you really mean business. We'll leave that over here for now. So just starting out, you can just get this Model Master liquid cement for plastic models. Believe it or not, I use a lot of this. I use this all the time. It's my go-to glue. I like it because it has a very accurate needle tip for applying the glue. They also make, and I use occasionally, a clear part cement as well, made by testers. This dries clear. If you get it on the glass, it won't leave a mark. If you get it on the chrome, it won't leave a mark. But that is also the same as this Bob Smith Industries Super Gold Plus. This is crazy glue, dries very quickly. Super Gold Plus is odorless, so it does not leave any marks on glass, and it does not leave any marks on chrome. If you're going to be assembling your model with crazy glue, you must be very careful near the glass parts and the chrome parts. Don't use crazy glue near the glass parts and the chrome parts. I would recommend not using crazy glue at all in the beginning. Put those right away and stick with model glue. They also have the tubes. I don't have any. I don't use the tubes. There is also this product by Tamiya, which is extra thin cement. They sell this in Hobby Lobby, I think, for $3 or $4. This is a glue that is very liquidy, and it has a very nice smell to it. It doesn't have a horrible odor. You do still need to use it in a ventilated area, but it does clean with water if you get it on something, and it won't glue your fingers together, which is nice. So this glue works two ways. You can rely on capillary action, which basically means that if you have a small gap here, you'll see there's a small gap. You can just run this brush along the gap, and what has happened is the glue has been sucked into the crevice in between the parts and is now working. And we are gluing this part as we speak. And that is what I'm going to do down here as well. Capillary action. And just let it all soak in. And the glue is working. While this glue is working, we should, and you should have some small clamps handy. Any kind of clamps, clothespins work. Any kind of clamps are nice, just to make sure that the part sticks together with some force, so that it will, the glue will work. The parts will be glued firmly together. This just has all kinds of great places to put a clamp. Look at that. And now that is going to set over here and cure. This glue does cure very quickly. Just a matter of 5 minutes and it'll be done. So does this one. Glues fairly quickly. I also have this glue out. Never underestimate the power of Elmer's glue. It dries clear. It's safe. It's non-toxic. It dries strong. And it's a great for mocking up stuff. It will not hold things permanently, but if you are working on something and you want to like test fit something and see how it's going to look when it's all together, you can use this, and then it just comes apart and you can remove the glue very easily and you're back to square one, and you could use your model glue at that point. It's also very good for flocking carpets, which is a process where you put the glue down, you spray carpet flock over the glue and pat it down, and it cures. This is very good for that as well. Some people use paint, some people use Elmer's glue. If you're interested in flocking, I have flocked many videos. I have used more advanced techniques in many videos on my channel. I have over 100 videos now and playlists to go with them. So feel free to check those out if you're interested in more advanced techniques. I hope that you will as you progress in this hobby and have all of the fun that we're having here today. One thing that's nice about this particular part where we're going to be assembling these is that's an ugly seam right there. But when you put this on, look at that. The ugly seam is gone. So I don't have to spend a lot of time sanding this because the seam is going to be completely covered by the oil pan. So that's good. So now I want to make sure I get this oriented correctly. Looking at the pictures, the oil pan, according to the pictures, gets oriented like this on the engine. So you have this big part up here. You want to make sure you get that right. All the parts need to be installed correctly. Otherwise, you'll have trouble assembling the model. And there we have it. I'm going to just push that right in place, just like that. Let the Tamiya extra thin cement do its work. And there it is. That's nice. Okay, so now this is ready to be painted. This front part is going to be painted A, which is, or excuse me, B, which is orange. And this back part, the transmission, is going to be painted A, which is aluminum. So we will take these, or silver, as the case may be. So we'll take this, we'll put it in the orange one for now, and I'll know later on that it needs to be a two-tone, because I'll consult the instructions before I begin assembly. So now we have more parts that can be removed. I'm just going to move on through every step in the kit. I'm going to remove the parts, I'm going to sand them, and I'm going to put them in their respective compartment for the color, so that when I'm ready to, I can pull all of the parts that are the same color out, paint them, let them cure, put them back in. Keep them organized, and you won't lose any parts. Now this part here is rather interesting, and this is good to take note of. You see this extra little doohickey on there? That's just flash, or a extra part of the molding process that can be removed by you. And you know this because if you look at the part number 32, part number 32 does not look like that. In fact, the two pieces kind of almost look similar. But I could tell you that this is the part because it's molded nice and looks like the picture. And this is a little piece of flash because I've seen flash for 30-something years and I know what it looks like. And we take it and we put it away. And that is the part number 32, which is F. And there's not really anything here that needs to be cleaned, so I will put it in the semi-gloss black. The other part that is mentioned on here is a chrome part. I generally leave those until the end, and I'll go back and get them all after. That's those carburetors. The other thing is the air cleaner is part number 46, but I thought I saw that on the chrome sprue. However, it's not indicated as a chrome sprue here in the instructions. You'll see that has a star next to it, which tells it is a chrome part. This says part number 46, but there is no star. But I could have sworn I saw it on the chrome sprue when I was doing it. Is it part number 46? It is. So we have an error in the instructions. It does happen from time to time. There's part number 86, and it has a star next to it, indicating that it is from the chrome sprue. And then this is part number 46, yet it has no star next to it. So I am going to leave the chrome parts, as I said, until later. We're not going to worry about chrome parts for right now. So anything I see a star for, I just move on. Headers are notorious for having a seam right down them, and this one is no different. One of the many tools that I rely upon sometimes besides sandpaper are small little needle files. And they can be found when you get down the road and you get into model building a little further. You can get yourself a nice set of needle files. They're not extremely expensive. They look like this, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. And what they enable you to do is to get into very small areas to remove seam lines, to get rid of them. Now, the instructions say that the headers are orange. Now, I have never seen headers that were the color of the block in my entire life. I am going to have to check into that. Not saying that they're wrong, but I would suspect that these are more than likely steel headers and that they should be steel. I'm going to put them in there for now, and I'm going to do research on the matter and find out later. And research is as easy as using Google Image, which anybody can do. You know, Google 1970 Dodge Challenger motor and look at pictures and look for the part that you're looking for and that you're questioning. Sometimes they do make errors in the manual, and on this particular step, that's the same step where they said this isn't a chrome part. So maybe they have that color incorrect too. So, or maybe it does have orange headers. It'll be the first time I've ever seen paint on a header. Headers get very, very hot. Not to say that they can't paint them, because they can, but I've never seen headers the color of the engine block, which is kind of weird to me. So I'm going to look at that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue through all of the instructions. I'm going to remove every part from these sprues, and I'm going to put them in here, and then I will have you come back and join me when we paint the parts. I hope you guys are enjoying the beginner how-to build. Go ahead and click that subscribe button in the upper left-hand corner so you don't miss any of the updates. I'll also link a couple of playlists on the right so you can check those out as well. Come on back in a couple of days. I'll put up the video where we start painting all these parts and continuing on with the 70 Charger.